Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. We fight our country's battles in the air, on land and sea. First to fight for right and freedom.
I am in Sarasota, Florida, just south of Tampa, about an hour.
Got you. Yep.
How about you, man? Where are you at?
I'm in Syracuse, New York.
Freezing your rear end off, huh?
Mm-hmm.
It's been cold up there this year. You guys have had a bad winter, man.
Yeah, we've had a very snowy, not the coldest winter, but really snowy, which we're pretty much used to regardless, because we get lake effect snow. So it's very hit or miss. Like, and that doesn't really count it counts in the overall numbers for us, but when they talk about snowfall nationwide,
Yeah.
like, most people don't even know what lake effect snow is until you live someplace that gets it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it can be. I got a lot of friends from Buffalo, and
Oh yeah, so they get lake effect too.
oh my gosh, they get like footage, man. You know that.
Yeah, because technically, so there's a competition every year between Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, Watertown, and I think Utica, because they're technically cities, right?
Right.
So it's called the Snow Bowl. So
who usually wins it? You guys
Syracuse does, yeah.
Oh man,
So
that's crazy.
but there's places in upstate New York, like farther upstate than us, that are in what's called the Tug Hill,
Yeah.
which is a plateau that comes off of Lake Ontario, that have gotten like 700 inches of snow.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. You know, I grew up in Florida, you know, and my dad was from Pittsburgh, but my wife's from Virginia. And I actually like the change of seasons, and I don't mind being in cold weather, but after about 2 weeks, it's like, you know, let's do something different.
Yeah. Can we go back?
So,
Yeah.
So life's been pretty good lately. I mean, I've had my ups and downs like every other human being on the face of the planet, but,
Right.
you know, I think I'm finally getting my bootsteps back in sync now.
Awesome.
So, you know, we're doing a lot of cool things. I'll be in Milwaukee this coming week making a presentation to our biggest client, Harley Davidson, and really looking forward to working with those guys and gals up there and doing some really cool things and blending veterans and active military into the equation. Going back to our roots, man.
For sure. All right. So how do we say your last name?
You can say it any way you want, man. You know, Krotec, you know, but I've had it said many different ways.
Yeah.
Just,
Okay.
you know.
That's how I wanted to say it, was Krotec, but I wasn't sure, you know, how right that was.
Man, I grew up, you know, you might not want to record this, but they used to call me Johnny Kotex back in the day. And I actually, it used to bug the crap out of me, man. They called
me Bennett Tampon. So
yeah. So then we got something in common, man.
Right. Totally get it.
Yeah, that's cool.
So we'll basically just roll with this. I'm going to just introduce you, and then we will just kind of let the conversation go where it will. I mean, I'll talk about Greenzone Hero, but I want to touch on both, you know, all of it. But this is just a conversation. We don't do like canned interviews. I just don't. It's about, you know, you and I just having a conversation and shooting the shit.
I get it. Yeah, we have a couple of shows ourselves. They're kind of but the mission requires that we stick to this script.
Right, gotcha.
We want to change. We want to. Anyhow, you know the deal, man.
I do.
I'm preaching to the choir.
So also, we are an explicit show, so you can say whatever you want. It doesn't matter. You can swear, you cannot swear. It's up to you.
I think it just depends on what the hell we're talking about.
Right, exactly. So,
but you know what I've noticed, Bennett, before we go on, man, is that this is crazy, man. Everybody, you know, in business, I want to be different. You know, it's kind of like, how can we differentiate ourselves, create network, but be different? And what I'm noticing, maybe you see this, is everybody's doing the same freaking thing, man. It drives me nuts.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, we've got 40 different veteran-owned coffee companies. We got 50 different veteran-owned t-shirt companies. We've got, I don't know now, probably had a dozen or so liquor companies, right?
Yeah, it's
And
nothing more power to them, but
yeah, which is great, but their shtick is all the same.
it's all the same.
Yeah.
Love those guys and gals. We do, man.
Correct. But
Anyhow,
my part. And how many different veteran transition books do we need?
oh my God. And you know what, man? I love those guys and gals. I really, really do. And I know you do too. But it's like, there's more, there's got to be a way to be more powerful than that.
Right. Well, there's like just for an example, there's this guy, and I can't remember his name, but he was a special forces guy, and he hires other special forces and special ops guys to knit hats. Right.
Right.
And I can't remember the name of it, but it's genius because it's so different, because the knitting is therapeutic. Right.
I love that, man.
And they're literally in like Afghanistan knitting hats that they sell to him for X amount of dollars, and then he sells on the market.
That's awesome, man. And it's even that is crazy freaking cool. And it's kind of like with Greenzone again. We don't. The minute you mention veterans or military, everybody automatically thinks you're a freaking nonprofit. And the nonprofits do great stuff, but we're not in that world. We're in the business world of monetizing a marketing platform that gives our clients the opportunity to tell the world what they do for veterans. I don't know.
Right.
It's all anyhow. I'm very blessed to be here, and thank you for your breath of fresh air. I like candid
You are
conversation.
Yes. So we will talk about all of it. I'm trying to find this company just so we can talk about it. And they don't call them, they're not called beanies. I think they're called meanies or something like that. It's really funny.
Awesome, man. But that's what we're talking about. Be different. Everybody and their brother now. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't want to point.
Warrior Woven.
That's really cool. But anyway, you notice, it's like all these tribes that are springing up. Welcome so and so to the tribe. Welcome this guy. Welcome this gal. And that's great to build network. But there's like 10 tribes.
Yeah.
It's like,
right.
Give me a break.
Yeah. I know. I've been doing this, like podcasting, and because by trade I am a peer support specialist. That's what I do. So I always describe it as like I'm a life coach for veterans. Like that's what I do for the VA.
Right.
That's my day job. Right. So and I work in vocational rehab. So what I do all the time, all day, is help guys either figure out if they want to go to school, figure out if they want to work, or they want to open a business. Now, it's not the VBA side of vocational rehab, like Chapter 31. That's not what I do.
Right.
I'm working for the hospital side.
Got it.
Most people don't even know there is a voc rehab program on that side. And basically, so we have voc rehab counselors, and then you have me as a peer support who helps them navigate that system, whether it's getting, signed up for their GI Bill or whatever it is. But I'm helping a guy now do like a wood cutting business, so this is what I do for a living. I'm just pushing it out to the masses. And I've been in this space now for, I don't know, the better part of 5 years or so.
Well, you got a great reputation. Your name's out there. We finally freaking connected, and I just recently got in. I'm a U.S. Army veteran from way back. I just recently got into the veteran space. I've been out in the civilian business world for 25 years,
and that happens a lot.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing though, because you pop out, live in the real world for a while, and then pop back in and help guys navigate the system, right?
Exactly. So, I had a successful business, my wife and me, before my accident for 23 years. And I'm telling you, Bennett, I couldn't even speak 3 sentences 5 years ago.
Right.
My mood swings were out of control. I couldn't even focus on the tip of my nose, man. I was so angry.
So let's get on and tell that story. So I'm going to give us, and just make sure that I'm recording, which I am. And so this is the other thing. The one other thing I like to tell people, that after this is over, you've probably got about a week or so before we will push it out, right?
Right.
So anytime in that week, you think of something that you said that you don't want on, just let me know and we can edit it.
No worries, man. I appreciate that. I think we'll be good to go.
Okay. So give me like 5 seconds of silence, and then I'm going to roll in, and, we'll just talk like we've been talking.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Hello, folks, and welcome to another episode. I am here today. Oh, this is Bennett Tanton, your host, by the way. I'm here today with John Krotec. John is an entrepreneur, a writer, and an Army veteran, and he currently runs Greenzone Hero. Is it Hero or Heroes, John?
Hero. Singular.
Greenzone Hero.
Well, we got a bunch of heroes out there, so.
Yes, we do. So he is also a podcast host, which goes hand in hand with Greenzone, correct?
Yes, we just started that with those guys out there on the West Coast, and we're having fun with it.
So it's called Straight Out of Combat.
And we just recently launched Angel Brigade Radio too, which is
okay,
a great
awesome.
start.
So Angel Brigade Radio as well, folks. So welcome, John Krotec.
Hey, Bennett, man. Thanks for having me. We talked previously about conversation, and we love conversation. So I'm just very blessed to be on your show. It's a breath of fresh air, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're glad that you're here. So it's one of those things, as you can see, we run pretty informal because that's how we roll, because that's how we talk, right? We don't want all kinds of stuffiness, because I feel like sometimes it stifles conversation, and we were getting rolling there. So what I guess the first thing I want to touch on is, who is John Krotec? Give us your background, and from that up to what you're doing now. I mean, you don't have to go back to birth and diapers, but if you want, right. But if you actually want to, make it so. That's cool.
Actually, I'm a son of some ancestors that came to America for a better life. Like all of us here in America, I'm a patriot. I believe in this country, its ideals. I believe in its people. I believe in its business owners. I believe in its military. And I'm just a guy that wants to be part of a greater network. And I, as an American, I think we have a tremendous opportunity and legacy to use our personal skill sets to leave this place better after we're gone. So I'm just like you, Ben. I'm trying to find solutions and find ways to make things better than they already are. Small business owner, U.S. Army veteran. We talked about it from way back. My dad was a 28-year Army officer. I went through college at Florida State University, and, back when Bowden first started, and went through all that. And, I lived on the West Coast when I first got started in corporate life. I spent some time outside the country, in the Caribbean, living in a different culture, operating a business in a different culture. Then I kind of got tired with all that, and, I wanted to go. I felt it was my duty to be part of the military. And out of 4 siblings, I was the only one to raise my right hand. And I'm glad that I did. I met lifelong friends. I'm very proud of my military service. I got out right before the first Gulf War. I tried to go. My first sergeant called me, and so they weren't taking any prior service, so I went back in and I did some time in the reserves. And but I used some of the Army experience, especially the college fund, for more education. Then I got out, got reacquainted with the woman that I'd known prior to going in the military, and married her and raised 2 kids. And we had a small business for 23 years in Florida, and then things changed. Was involved in an automobile accident that had alcohol involved, and then everything spun out of control. An event that happened to me when I was 11 years old surfaced, something that I had repressed and had hidden for many, many years. It was an assault, you know, and that came to light. And then because I had an injury, I was unable to, to really, I didn't want to seek any help. I didn't think anything was wrong, although I knew it. Friends were getting away from me. And long story short, here I am now, you know, building a company that's outside the borders of the U.S. Went through 47 weeks of cognitive behavioral therapy. I went through 6 months of cannabidiol therapy, you know, non-addictive hemp-based treatment for some damaged areas to my right frontal lobe. And I can speak sentences now. I've got some clarity, and I'm just surrounding myself now with true patriots and people that see our mission to honor freedom and to pay our respects to our service people and their families, and try to build this network to make business better, but to make our country and its people better than they already are. So that's a mouthful. I mean, you get me going on this coffee, and I know you're freezing up there in Syracuse. It's mild. I'm sitting outside, and it's just nice to be here.
Awesome. That is awesome. So let's touch on just to do it. Let's touch on Greenzone Greenzone Hero, and what your mission is and what you guys are doing, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you for that. We're, you know, as you know, Bennett, and a lot of other people who are listening know, a green zone is a relatively safe place in a combat zone. A Greenzone Hero is a company or an organization that honors and recognizes our veterans, active duty military personnel, and their families. And what I mean is, you know, these organizations or businesses have special pricing. They hire veterans, they hire disabled veterans. They're veteran owned or managed, and they give to veteran-centric causes. And there's just about everybody in America that owns a business does something for a veteran or knows a veteran, but they haven't really had a platform to really let the world know. Now they do. And what we do is, we're not just a directory listing platform. We actually give tools, strategies, tactics to companies. We do have business collaterals. If you don't have a website, we have a creative page listing that you can put video on, and you can change it, do whatever you want with it. We have a cyber medal system that we've patented, and we actually award medals for what companies do. We have a best practices manual that we've put together. We have a manifesto. We have access to community outreach tools, social media platforms. We do press releases. We do events. We have a foundership program. We have an ambassadorship program for our nonprofit partners. We have over 600 locations right now that have joined the network. We are a for-profit company, and we're very proud of that. We think that we can, not that the nonprofits don't do a good job. There's lots of them out there doing great things, but we think with the type of business we have, it makes sense for us to be a profitable company. And we just want to improve business. It's pretty simple. If you do things for veterans, and you believe in the freedom that this country affords us, and you appreciate our veterans in the military and their families, then pay the yearly fee and join us. Let us give you the tools to up your game, and so you can differentiate yourself against your competition, and work with us to build this network. Some of the victories we've had, and, you know, Harley Davidson Motorcycles has joined us. Boar's Head Provisions has joined us. We have the largest John Deere business organization with 14 locations in Florida. Mission Barbecue, you know, and the beat goes on. We have Community AIDS Network, 26 locations in Florida. The Adante Health Group, and I mean, and the list goes on. We just had a ski resort in Utah, Powder Mountain in Eden, Utah, renew their membership. We have mom and pop shops on board. We have national brands on board. We have Canadian companies that have joined us. We're working with veteran-owned UK, Scott Johnson. Here's a shout out to him over in Great Britain, who's getting things going over there in the UK. We're working with Scott Kinder down in Australia to spread the word down there. He's an ex-U.S. Army SF guy who's got a great program for certification. We're just doing all kinds of cool things. And we just want American companies that believe in our ideals to join us. That's all, so it's a dynamic company. I've got veterans and non-veterans on our staff and on our group of liaisons. We're tied in. We've made some great alliances. Pete Turner out on the West Coast and Adam Bird with the Heroes Media Group. We're working with Alex Quaid and her movies, Danger Close. We're just having a blast. It hasn't been easy. I'm smiling now, and it hasn't been fun and games.
It never is.
You know the deal, brother. But you know what? The deeper we get into this, and the more I see the heart and soul of our American business owners and the patriots that actually give a damn about this country, it makes my heart beat a bit faster, and it makes me step a little bit prouder. So I'm just very fortunate, like you are and all of us in America, to be born in a country that affords us these freedoms and these luxuries to be and do whatever the hell we want to do. I mean, that doesn't come easy. And you know damn well that you can't do this in most countries of the world. In fact, any. Name one.
Yeah, right. So you brought me back to a while ago when I lived farther down south in Mission Barbecue. Kind of miss that place. I love it. I haven't had it in a while. No, we have what's called we have Dinosaur Barbecue up here, which is a famous barbecue joint in its own right.
Awesome.
That now is in here, Buffalo, Rochester, New York City, and whatnot. But when I lived down in North Carolina and then in Delaware, there's Mission Barbecue originally is from Maryland, right? From Baltimore.
Yeah, you're right, Bennett. They are, but man, that brisket is good, isn't it?
It is pretty daggone good. I'm not gonna lie. So but I have to give my hat to Dinosaur Barbecue, even though it's not as well known. But you brought up a really good point that I want to touch on, and I'm gonna read you basically a quote from a buddy of mine who. With businesses, we run into rough patches, right? Where we just like, Jesus, it's like I'm spinning my wheels, or I'm taking a step forward and I'm taking 2 steps back. This, that, and the other thing. We all run into those problems, right? So my buddy Eddie Lazary, who's my co-host on Change Your POV, just wrote to me the other day because I was basically belly aching to him about but this is why we have our networks, right? This is why we have our tribes and our buddies and people that we can talk to. And these are his exact words. He writes, just keep in mind that shit worth doing ain't ever easy. It isn't supposed to be. The fact that it's hard means the shit is real and will be worth a fuck ton more to you when you cross the finish line.
Oh yeah,
that is a powerful statement, and I want people to understand. It's like you say, you're smiling now because you went through a ton of crap and trauma and multitudes of other things, right? And we all have our struggles. It's how you come out the other side of those that defines you. And I think that was a really good point that you brought up. And I just want to highlight that with that quote. That really, that's the type of stuff that makes life, right? That kind of makes it worth it, because you go, oh my God, and those kind of struggles really put the exclamation point on things, because when you come out the other side, you go, well, I did that and made it through that. It can't get much worse than that. Whatever you take from it, right? As long as you learn from those lessons, and move forward and drive on, just good things usually come out of that type of adversity. So
I couldn't agree with you more. And your co-host, his quote is spot on. And I'm glad you brought that up, Bennett, because I'm in my backyard now. I have a little bit of acreage. It's heavily wooded, and out back I have a prayer circle out there where I buried all my dogs, my favorite companions. And I can tell you, I've been on my hands and knees out there many, many, many times, not with smiles, but with cries. And, I almost lost this house in a divorce. After my head injury, my wife filed because she didn't want anything to do with me because I was so out of control. But what you say is, so perfectly spot on. And, another thing I'd like to add to what you just said, your powerful statement, is that, you can't do it alone. And, you're not a pansy if you reach out and ask for help, because you can't do it alone. You literally have to find a network to lean on. And I like to say that, polarization doesn't happen in community, doesn't happen in network either. It only works in sunglasses. And so, depolarize yourself, reach out and find help if you need it, because like you say, Bennett, there are better days ahead. And it's,
For
you
sure.
know this, man, what is it, Fido, we used to say, and shit happens to all of us, but it's going to get better if you can find a network to help you get to that place. And
Right.
I just thank God for my friends, and for the patience of my wife, who is a lot like Job, and and my business partners who saw me in my earlier days and the struggles, and when none of them really wanted to be around. And it's all good, man. It's all good. So I'm just happy to be where I'm at, and I know that I've got challenges ahead, like everybody does. Guys like Bobby Henline, and guys that you can see what he's been through and how he's turned it around, and so many across the board. Some of them you can't see their injuries. John Preston singing his lungs out,
Yep.
lost his brother to suicide, and the list goes on. Adam C. Martin, and all these people are such an inspiration, and they're part of this network that I'm just thrilled to death that I survived that dark time to be here, man, with everybody.
Right. For sure. It's my hardest, with my work daily, the hardest thing that I convey to other veterans that they always get stuck on is that vulnerability is not a weakness. It's not you exposing your weakness. That is a strength, period. You actually reaching out with your vulnerabilities and expressing those to your brethren or people that can help you is a strength, because it shows that you really want to deal with these issues and move on, right? It's not easy. We know it's not easy. All of us that have done it, it's not easy. It's like, what man wants to come forward and talk about sexual trauma? What man, you know what I mean? What man wants to come forward and say, that they've been a victim of domestic abuse?
Well,
Nobody does, right?
nobody. Well, that's the stigma that kept it so quiet. At 11 years old, I like to say, my PTS started when I was 11, yada, yada, yada. But, when you get assaulted like that by somebody that you trust, and a much older, bigger person, it changes you, man. And, I've had several veterans and close friends say, I wouldn't trade what I've been through for anything in the world, what you went through. And you're right, man. It molds you, and it shapes you, and it does make you who you are. And, and I don't, my dad would have kicked my ass had I come forward back in the 70s and said something like that. Somehow it would have been my fault.
Right.
But it was that social stigma, that labeling is the reason why I didn't say anything. And, I had problems with alcohol, relationship problems in my early adult years, and just, times of acting out, with overspending and just anger at times. And you're right. It's not easy, but you know what? Isn't that a title of a book? No Easy Day, something like
something like that. Right.
How they got bin Laden. Well, that's the truth. There is no easy day, but it gets easier if we do things like this, Bennett, and you allow people like me to come on and talk about it, because you keep it bottled up inside and hidden.
It's gonna eat you alive.
It's gonna eat you alive, and you're gonna hate yourself even more. That's the hardest thing, is to forgive yourself and look at that person in the mirror and say, you know what, man, it wasn't your fault. You're just wrong place, wrong time. And but it doesn't make it any easier. But if we can be helpful in any way to anybody else that's suffering or going through those times, then it's what we need to do if we're authentic.
Absolutely. I have a mantra that I live my life by, and I don't know, this audience on this podcast, they haven't heard it as much as the Change Your POV side of this podcast, the Change Your POV podcast. But my mantra is trust, gratitude, and forgiveness. And I spout that all the time because what I've realized in my 45 years of life is that trust, gratitude, and forgiveness are the 3 keys to living happily, right? So trust with yourself and others, gratitude with yourself and others, and forgiveness of yourself and others. And if you don't have those in your life, you need to get them, because
I couldn't have said it better myself. You know, you're right, man. And you know what? You know this, man. It's not easy, and that's why people don't do it. If they F up, then they go, oh, shit, I'll never get this done, so why try? That's the terrible cycle, the dark cycle of the whole thing, when your self-esteem is that low.
Yep.
And trust me, when you get assaulted, I don't care if you're male or female, it's not worse for any gender.
Nope.
But you feel dirty, you feel slimy. Who are you going to tell? You have no trust. You know, it's like F everybody. You're dirty. So what if you F up? You know, you're a bad person anyways. You allowed this shit to happen. And that's the vicious cycle. But Ben, I'm glad you touched on it, man. If you can get that, if you can honestly put gratitude, burn that into your heart, pray, do whatever
whatever you have to do.
Get it and sear it into your heart and live it and breathe it. And it does get easier as you start to practice these healthier habits,
because they're muscles, right?
They're muscles. And you're right, man. And you know, that's this whole thing with meditation. How can 7,000 years of practice be wrong? I mean, if it didn't work, why the hell is it still here?
Right. Exactly.
So, but yeah, I can tell you
this and all the other stuff.
All that stuff. You know, there's so many modalities that, of course,
this is new.
It's sleep deprivation because of PTS, right? So they give me pills. Within 3 weeks, I wanted to off myself. And so went cold turkey on that, found somebody that did hemp. But what I'm getting at is there's modalities out there that, other than the status quo typical ways, to treat yourself. And if you put one boot in front of the other, it's tough that first mile. Then the second mile is a little bit easier. But there's no easy way to reach the summit. And that's kind of what mountain climbing taught me, is that, you know, I did that for 15 years, is that, you know, you're all on the same rope. You're on a rope team. Everybody's gritting, going through the same shit. One boot in front of the other. You're on ice. It's 60 degrees below zero. The wind's whipping. And you see that summit up there and you're like, holy shit, I'm never going to make it. But slow and steady wins the race. You get up there. It's a beautiful scene. You've spent all this time training to get up there with your buddies. And then guess what? You got 5 minutes on the summit and you're gone. Suck that shit in. You're not going to always be on the summit. There's more freaking valleys than summits. But remember what it's like. And when you're in that freaking valley, smell the freaking roses. Remember what that was like, because you're going to have more summits. Anyhow, you get me going now.
No, man, that's what we're here for. That's what this is all about, right? Because we want to change. We want to touch people and realize that you can get through it, and this is the other side, and this is what it looks like. Doesn't mean that the struggles aren't there. They're here every day. We struggle with, I mean, trust me, Jesus, I have 4 daughters as well, so I struggle with all kinds of shit.
I just added you to my prayer list, man.
Right? Yes, thank you very much. I give you a little you know,
I got it.
So transitioning out of this heavy duty stuff that we're talking about, right? Because, you know, I mean, I love to talk about it, and you and I should probably have a long conversation offline about how we can help each other with this stuff too. But let's talk about Straight Outta Combat, which is part of the Heroes Media Group, correct?
That's true. Adam Bird out there.
Yeah,
I met Adam.
So we actually are part of the Heroes Media Group as well, which I was, you know, and this is my bad for not doing as much research as I should have. I was researching Greenzone Hero, but Straight Outta Combat, part of Heroes Media Group. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my God, because Cigars and Sea Stories is part of it's part of Heroes Media Group as well. And Adam's one of our really good buddies. So yeah, there's some cross-pollination here, obviously. So how did this start? And, you know, how do you like doing it?
Well, thank you for that, Bennett. And you've been doing it for a while. I just started, you know, like 3 months ago. But, you know, I'm tired of the negative stereotype of the combat veteran. You know, every time there's a shooting or something crazy that's against the norm, the first thing, and especially if it's a veteran, the first thing they do is they sensationalize it. Oh my God, he's an ex-Army guy. Oh, he was in the Marines. Oh, it's a Navy guy who served 3 combat tours, you know, and what happens is, and you can talk to anybody on the street and I go, hey, what do you think of combat veterans? What's your first impression? Loose cannons. There's something wrong with them. There's, you know, so I got tired of that. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to reach out to our combat veterans, and we wanted to just talk like you're doing with this on your show here, Bennett, is just talk to them, get into their minds, where they came from, what it was like growing up, what kind of music they liked, what they liked, sports, and, you know, those kinds of things, to rehumanize them, because that's what they are. And then talk about the experiences they saw, and then maybe a little bit on transition. But the main thing is what's the message that you want the general population to know about combat veterans? And you know, time and time again, we get so much good content because it's always something a little bit different, but with the same thing. We're not broken. We have, and you know what I've learned now, I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I haven't been to combat. My unit went in the first Gulf War, but I tried to go. But what I'm learning is that these people, these combat veterans, these guys and these gals, it's a volunteer force. They raised, some of the Vietnam vets might say otherwise, but they raised the right arm to defend this great nation when so many others don't. And I don't pass judgment. That's choice that we all can make in a country that's free. But these people serve this country, most of them proudly, a great majority of them. They're not these half-cocked, half-baked people. And they got skill sets beyond what the average Joe or Jane on the street has. Look at these people, you know, listen to them. They can be part of this great country, this social fabric, and let's give them a voice. Let's don't make them out to be something that they're not. You know, they're not what the greater majority of people think they are. They're not that. And people like you, Bennett, and Adam Bird, and Kaylin Marie, and the list goes on, Otis McGregor, and all these people out there, Dan Dwyer, Chris Hoffman, and the list goes on, you know, dozens of them. Those people, those men and women, Kat Kaylin, Robert Gowan, they're doing their part. They're serving their country, their veterans, their active duty military people, and their families again. They're in civies now. But by God, we're all doing our part to change that paradigm. We're straight out of combat. We're hoping we can make a dent in it. And we've had some tremendous success so far. We just recently, another thing too, and I don't mean to steal the show, but is Angel Brigade Radio. Another thing, you know, I was sitting at this, I went to see Chris Peranto, the guy from Benghazi, and a real good friend of mine, Jill Stevenson. They wrote the book about her son. She's a Gold Star mother. It's called The Heart of a Ranger by Bill Lund. Her son was wounded in combat in Afghanistan, came back to the States. He flatlined up in D.C., and then they removed his heart, and his heart is beating today in another human being. She invited me to this Christian Peranto speaking engagement. And I introduced her to a congressman's aide as Jill Stevenson's Gold Star mother, and the guy actually high-fives her. And I see the look on her face, and I'm like, holy shit. How does a congressman's aide think that getting a Gold Star for losing your son in combat deserves a freaking high five? So something changed in me, and Bobby Henline actually gave us the name for the show when he lost his comrades in that horrific IED explosion. He survived. All of his buddies died. He called them his angels. And so Chris Hager, whose son was killed during the surge in 2008, he's actually going to be the host of the show. The first pilot went this week, but we want to change that. We want to have Gold Star parents, brothers, sisters, mothers, aunts, uncles on. He's interviewing. He's already got a bunch of them slated to go. He just did Danny Dietz's parents. We want to change that paradigm. We want to educate about Gold Star, but we want to tell these human interest stories so we can change that shit. So we don't have congressmen's aides coming up and doing high fives to people that have lost their children in combat. Holy shit. So Angel Brigade Radio, another Heroes Media Group, collaboration, Greenzone Audio Medicine Project. We started that. And so these two podcasts we're hoping can be part of the solution. Are you there?
Yep.
So,
sorry, I was muted, so
no. So that's what we're trying to do. Of course, I'm not a radio guy. I'm just a regular guy, just trying to be part of this greater network. But we hope with these two shows that we're able to change the paradigm, diminish, these veterans have stories to tell. We need to hear them.
Now, to be honest, I haven't listened to Straight Outta Combat. How many episodes in are you in?
Well, we just did 25 with Chris Schaefer.
Okay.
With Solid Red Concepts out in Colorado,
Yep.
SF guy, and but we've had some really great Mike Sweeney, Colonel Sweeney, who served 2 combat tours with Mattis,
Yep.
General Mattis in Ramadi, or maybe it was Fallujah. And then we've had Ron DeSantis, U.S. Navy guy,
Yep.
who's running for governor of Florida. And then we've had, and then we like the grunts. We like we've had the ladies and men on there, and even with people we don't necessarily agree with. Right. Emily Yates, who came.
And that's a really good point. People that you don't necessarily agree with, but I bet your hearts are in the same place.
They are. Emily's kind of interesting. She was a public relations non-commissioned person. She was in Iraq, I think 2 combat tours, but she came back obviously really angry about what she saw, this distorted news machine. But we had a disclaimer on her show, and God bless her, she got all bent out of shape for that. But Emily, we basically support the same flag, just different angles, and that's what freedom's all about. We did put your show on, and don't be mad at it, but we did put your, that's if we want, and somebody comes on there, we don't care if they agree or disagree. There's going to be anger on there. Why wouldn't you be angry? But
right.
But that's, Bennett, thanks for pointing that out, because it's important for all of us to be able to isn't that what kind of freedom of speech is kind of about? It's a responsibility.
Well, yeah, because too often, and this is why we have such division in our country right now, is people are looking at the way that they think differently, not the way that they feel differently, right? So it's this like-minded, like-hearted differential, right? Just because you're not like-minded doesn't mean you're not like-hearted, and the like-heartedness is what really matters.
Well, I like you pointing that out, because you're so right, man. I might like the Steelers, you might like the Buffalo Bills, and we could freaking have fisticuffs all day long. We could remember plays and all kinds of bullshit.
Right.
But the bottom line is we both love the sport of American football.
Right.
And in the fight, in this polarization, we lose sight of the heart.
Right.
And you're right, man. Thanks. You've been doing this for a while, haven't you?
A little bit.
Just saying, man. Just saying.
Yeah. So it's really, that's a key. And we're fighting about semantics most of the time. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's really about semantics. Now, there are polarizing things out there, obviously, like gun control and things. And we all have opinions. They're like assholes, right? Everyone's got their own opinion. But at the end of the day, most Americans, I'd say a full 90% of Americans want the same thing. And that's to live in harmony as a community, right? So
Absolutely.
How the hell can we do that versus fighting over the dumb shit? Fighting over as from the, one of my favorite movies, Braveheart, fighting over the scraps from Longshank's table. Like, seriously, folks, that's what we're fighting over, the scraps. So knock it off and focus on what is important.
Absolutely. You know what? And again, I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way, but I'm constantly reading stuff, and you have to watch what you read, because sometimes it's slanted. But I read the other day, and of course, the loss of one life in a horrific mass shooting is freaking so very, very sad. There are no words for that. And I read where since 1968 in the U.S., there's been like 1,200 people killed by mass shooting. And again, that's one too many. But I was also reading that last year, 47,000 people in America died from opioid use.
Correct. That's an
47,000.
epidemic.
That's epidemic, right? And then
That's a pandemic.
it's pandemic, and texting drivers killed more people last year. You know, again, my point is to support what you just said. It's all semantics. But, if we could just clear the anger and the animosity and this polarization from our eyes and look at the 50,000-foot picture, maybe we can come up with some real solutions that our future leaders of America can bank on. They look at these adults fighting like a bunch of freaking out of control, raging people. Let's be level-headed about this. These kids that are rising up, yeah, they have a voice, but they're acting like some of these raging adults. Let's be an example to our kids. Let's teach them, show them the way. Now, obviously, there is a time when you have to defend your position. I get that, but not to the extent to where you cloud your judgment and the hatred sees even more,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so I have a theory. It's not a new theory. It's just one that's being revisited, because one of the biggest issues we have, again, it goes back to trust, gratitude, forgiveness, right? And that's what's plaguing this country, is a lack of trust, right? And what goes along with that is forgiveness and gratitude. They're all synonymous. Like anyway, what my theory, and I don't want to get off on a tangent because
are we brothers, man, or something?
I don't know, man. But my theory is, and this is something that I've used and my life has gotten a whole lot better because of it. It doesn't mean I don't have disappointment. I have tons of disappointment in others, right? But trust, people think that trust is earned. And there is a semblance of agreement to that. I would agree. But more than it being earned, you give your trust, right? So trust is not earned, it's given. Because if you go into a relationship waiting for the other shoe to drop, there's never going to be trust in that relationship.
It's like signing a non-disclosure. It's like, really?
Right.
I've never signed a non-disclosure ever in business, and I've been practicing business for 35 years.
Because it shows the element of untrusting right off the bat. So it's
absolutely.
Like, why do I have to jump through hoops for you to trust me? That's bullshit. It's bullshit.
Well, that's what the world wants us to believe. You know what I'm saying?
They do. And I call bullshit. I say that trust is given, not earned.
Bennett, you raise you're spot on. I smoke and I joke and say we brothers, but, and you do this because you run in some of the same circles, but this is, again, people are looking for something. Talk to men and women, all age groups, genders, different races. And what I find in America these days is that exact thing. There's this lack of trust is what's creating 99% of these issues out there. And I honestly believe that the time is so right now for programs like what you're doing for Greenzone Hero, because people want to believe in something again. And where else can we go on the face of this freaking planet but right here in the good old United States of America and create that atmosphere again? It's a big mission. Is it going to be easy? Hell no. But people like you and others that we know, I think we can get it done. I think we can give something back to this society in America that they can believe in. You're spot on, and that's why I think, that people like us converge. I had a lady the other, Bonnie Silver out on the West Coast. She goes, I've been watching you and and we just finally met and we talked, and, there's a time and place for everything. Patty Cater, who's now, with Adam Bird, and you know her, and
I know Patty.
The list goes on. So I'm singing to the choir here, but you know what? Let's give people something to believe in again.
Well, what's as cool is something that, because we do talk about this to an extent on this show, but not a ton. So it's just, I guess the last thing that I want to say on the whole trust part is there's a mechanism for trust, right? That our society puts on people, and it's a scoring system, right? So earned trust requires that you keep score. And that's a horrible concept to walk into a relationship with. So like every time you keep score, you're creating a winner and a loser in the game of relationships, right?
Absolutely.
So at the end of that, though, you only end up with losers. You don't end up with winners, because part of human development is disappointment. That's just how it goes. So if you walk into a relationship keeping score, I'll cook dinner so she does the dishes. I mean, you know what I mean? It's seriously, if you live your life like that, that's what that is. That's trust. If you live your life that way, you're gonna be a loser.
You know
You're
what?
always gonna lose, and you're never gonna have the relationships that you really need to have. So knock it off.
Yeah, I agree with you. And you know what? I do have a disclaimer here. I haven't always been a saint in my life.
No, and neither have I.
I know I've made so many freaking mistakes. You know, I have scars to prove it. But you know, if I've ever wronged anybody, and this is where, like you say, you talk about strength, and if I've ever done anything wrong or made a mistake that's ever made somebody upset, I can assure you I really didn't mean it, and my heart is always in the right place, and I just pick myself up, dust off, and drive on. But you point something out that is, it's right there in front of you. If you trust yourself, you'll trust others. And that's what I mean about not being a saint. There were many times in my life, for whatever reason, that I didn't trust myself. And usually during those times is when I moved away from my soul, if you will. And you trust yourself, you'll trust others, and you invite that trust. And don't keep score. Damn it, don't keep score.
Yeah, because I mean, relationships and teamwork, it's messy, right? I mean, there's challenges and struggles with most of these things, with every relationship. Every single relationship is messy always. There's the good parts and there's the bad parts. It's just messy. But if you run by that model of you must earn trust model, it doesn't incentivize you and I, to be a better us, to offer the benefit of the doubt and to serve those around us. It stifles that, right? Because we're just we're keeping score of, well, what have other people done for me, or what have other people done? Instead, you're so focused on that instead of you giving your trust and giving yourself to those folks and that team and that relationship, that it's just selfish.
It is, you know, and it's like, if it's the what's in it for me mantra. And you know,
Absolutely, it's the same thing. It's the you must earn trust is the what's in it for me model. It is.
Well, one of the things that we've done with Greenzone Hero is, and we're very proud of this. I wish we didn't have to do this. I wish there were no Gold Star families, but that's life, and we deal with it the best we can. But if you're a Gold Star family business and you've lost a child, or a mother or father, sister, brother, serving this country in combat, we will give you a complimentary listing for life. It's the least we can do. It's a give back.
Right.
And I hope that we can create and generate revenue streams for your company like none other. And we want people to trust Greenzone Hero too. And, you know, we just run by those mantras. You know, we're pure in heart. Yeah, we make mistakes. We're a pure startup, but we want to do what we say we're going to do, and we want to build this network of people that can trust each other. You know, this is deep shit here, Bennett. You know, because so many times we lose sight of that. I wrote a piece on my great grandparents for LinkedIn yesterday, and they lived in their 90s. They outlived their kids. They came here to be free. You know, they were second generation Americans. And I think of some of the silly games my great grandfather used to play, but the lessons that he taught me have lived with me. You know, I'll be 59 this year, but I don't feel 59. But, you know, some of those lessons that we learn, and these idioms or these sayings and these quotes, of course, when we're in our 20s or teens, we don't think about them. But the older we get, we start to see the relevance. And, you know, never giving up, don't take any wooden nickels, keep going, persevere, all this stuff that sounded so cliche back in the day, and sometimes even
Right.
today, is real. It's real. That's real stuff. But my point is that if we can be authentic and live by that code of trust, I think there's a book, Robin Dreek wrote that book. Then I think we can live better lives and we can really add to this society.
For sure. That's what it's all about.
And how do we do that? And it's shows like yours, and it comes with a lot of heart. It comes with sacrifice. It comes with a lot of humility.
Yeah, because I think our community comes out of the military with this machismo, right? That is very stifling to their growth as people. That only sissies cry, and only if you're hurting, you don't whine about it, you suck it up and drive on. Well, knock it off. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have adversity. We always are, but this stuff that comes off as so woo-wooey, there's a reason it's there and that it works. And like you said, meditation and mindfulness and things like that, guess what, folks? They make you better people.
Absolutely, they do. Which leads me to Task Force Zen. And Task Force Zen is a project that is not. It's kind of on the shelf. We don't like to say that, but we've got other things going on with Greenzone at the moment in our podcast. But Task Force Zen is a project that we're working on behind the scenes that will be a global platform that will truly transform the world of commerce and healing at a global level. And we're really excited about this, and it's about a network of businesses and organizations and people that are true visionaries, and bringing them together, all of these modalities with proven sciences, to network and change the healing process for people that have been traumatized.
Mm-hmm.
We're real excited about that, and that's so out of the box. We're not recreating the wheel. We're just doing things a little bit different. And Task Force Zen will have the opportunity, or the potential to change the global paradigm. We're excited about that. And again, we don't need to go into detail about it, but watch for Task Force Zen. It's out there. We do have a holding page. We do have a plan for it, but we're not ready to launch yet. And I can assure you that when we do, it will be of such significance. We believe it will change the human condition, business and healing.
Fabulous.
So we're looking for that anyhow, but I don't know, man. You go back to one thing, and you talked about gratitude and forgiveness and trust, and and you're right. All these things sound so la-di-da-di-da, but you know what? The reality is that's serious business. And if you can create and use those time-proven strategies and behaviors, and I remember one time they wanted me to run for county commission here back in 2006, back when I was the darling of the community, before my downfall. But I remember my Army buddy. I was at a meeting downtown of a bunch of wealthy landowners and money people, people that run these political campaigns. And I remember a very wealthy landowner looking at me. Of course, my Army buddy was a combat veteran officer, sitting across from me at the table, and we have all these hot shots here. And he goes, John, you can say whatever you want to get into office. And this is exactly what this guy said, Bennett. And then he goes, but once you get there, you can do whatever you want. And I remember my Army buddy kicking me under the table. We left that lunch. He said, I knew they lost you then. I told the powers that be I wasn't going to run for county commission. And my point is he told me, if you stick to who you are, and this goes for any of us, you write down your values and you stick to them. You might have 2, you might have 3, 4, you might have a list of 10. But if you stick to those and you remain who you are, you can never go wrong in life. But when you deviate, usually trouble's right around the corner. So that would just be, if anything, out of this whole conversation we've had, for anybody listening, male, female, I don't care where you live, what you've done in your life, mistakes and successes. If you stick to your mantras, your values, your core values, and you don't deviate no matter what, you can never go wrong. I believe that, and I'm so glad I have friends like him. And, you know, he's had his issues with post-traumatic stress, and, you know, find a mentor, you know, get back, you know, in the circles with your friends, because people like that, this particular guy, I'm so glad he gave me that advice. And I'm so glad that I've always had somebody around me to guide me. So, you know, right now I'm working with Dan Dwyer out in Colorado on some
Dan's the
things.
man.
He's a great guy. I met Dan in Dallas last year at the Military Influencer Conference, and he has given me so many tips and pointers behind the scenes
Oh yeah.
that it's helped me get focused and you know, get into a battle rhythm. I'm not there yet, but I'm planning on being somewhere very soon.
Yeah, I was on his podcast not that long ago. Actually, I think it released this week. He's just such a good dude. I mean, we talk a lot offline as well, so
Yeah, I
I know
like Dan a lot.
all about it. So
Another true patriot.
yeah, man, for sure. And I think that you touch on a really good point, and it's honestly the last point that I'll make, because I could go on for days about this stuff, but
I know you love it, man.
everything that we do is our own responsibility, right? So you make the choices. Not everything that happens to you is your choice, but you choose how to deal with it. So I think that's a point that if we take that forward, everyone, and live your life that way, that regardless of whether you choose it to happen to you, because who wants to be assaulted? Who wants to, you know, have to deal with the pain of losing a child? Nobody wants to deal with that. But your responsibility in that is how you respond to it. And it's your life. It's your responsibility to move forward and either do good things or do bad things. And you can either let it define you, or you can use that trauma or that bad or good experiences to define what you do with it, right? So that's the last piece of
No, that's
the stuff that I want to put out there.
called wisdom, and thank
Yeah,
you for that.
correct.
And one of the things too, you know, there's a lot of self-help books out there. There's tons of them. Go in any bookstore in America, go online, go to there's thousands of self-help books, and they're all good. And if you grab a self-help book and you try to do the program that's in it and it doesn't work for you, it doesn't mean anything. You know, what a guy told me, he said, this is what I'd like to add is, you know, take what works for you. Not everything's the Bible, but there's a lot of good things out there that you can draw upon to make your life better. And you know, you have the choice. Make that choice, just like you said, what works for you. And if it's not the right choice, then be responsible enough to say, you know what, okay, that didn't work. I can't blame anybody. Pick yourself up, dust off, and drive on. I just know that we have a tremendous country that we're living in. All of us, every single one of us is part of this community here in America. We all have some of the same dreams. We all have hopes and aspirations. Let's work together to make this country better than it is. You know, we're not going to always see eye to eye, but let's try to have some understanding that that person's entitled to that belief.
Yeah, that's what it's for, right? That's what this country's about. That's like one of the biggest gifts given to us.
Absolutely. And, you know, we used to lead these guided trips down to South America. I did them for 15 years. And Americans that haven't been outside the country might think that the rest of the world lives like we do. Well, I can assure you they don't. Every time I came back to the States, whether we flew back into Miami or Atlanta, I literally, in my mind, kissed the very ground that I stepped on when I disembarked from that plane. For all of its bad, there's a whole hell of a lot of good here in the U.S. Be part of the solution. This is the greatest experiment in the history of world history. It's the United States of America. I believe it. We're all brothers, sons, and daughters of ancestors that came here because they believed it. Be part of a legacy. Don't be part of the problem. Let's work together and make it better. And thank you, Bennett, for having me on. I really appreciate it, and I'm glad that we finally met over the air. I know we'll probably shake hands sometime, and I look forward.
Probably. Are you going to Orlando for?
I'll be in Orlando. You were in Dallas, weren't you?
No, I wasn't.
Okay,
I was not able to get there, and that's probably why we didn't meet. But I will be in Orlando. Well, I can't guarantee it, but I'm hoping to be in Orlando.
I'm gonna second that. I'm hoping to be in Orlando. Heaven knows where what's gonna happen, but that's the plan right now. But I got you and your daughters and wife on my prayer list, and I'm gonna be praying for some warmer weather for you guys up there, in the Northeast.
Yes, sir. So tell us where we can find you with Greenzone Heroes and Straight Outta Combat. Right.
Well, okay, thanks. Greenzone Hero is greenzonehero.com. You can find our business platform there. And, if you're interested in joining up, there's a registration process there. If you have questions, feel free to email or call on the phone number. We're pretty responsive. You can also find us on Facebook, Greenzone Heroes, Straight Outta Combat, and now Angel Brigade. Task Force Zen is just a holding page, taskforcezen.com. I also am a speaker for Bravo 748, Jamie Burton and Bobby Henline, and their Military Speakers Consortium. My whole story is the sexual survival assault stuff. You can find me there, bravo748.com. And then, you can just call me. There's a number out there. I think it's on my Facebook page. And, if you want to make contact. I'm out there and I'm pretty responsive. I got a really good trip coming up here next week, and we're hoping to turn the tide with where we're at right now. And life is pretty good. So just reach out to me. I'm accessible.
Fabulous. So I really appreciate you coming on. And I know that we'll talk in the future, and we'll probably collaborate on some stuff. I can feel that coming. So.
Oh, I know, man. We're going to build this global network, brother.
Yeah, for sure.
We're not giving up. We're going to get up every day, and we're going to put one boot in front of the other, man, and we're just going to get it done.
Awesome. So I appreciate it greatly, John, for coming on, and we'll talk soon. Okay.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. God bless.
All right. So folks, thanks for listening. I want you to check out the 5paragraph.com. I want you to check out 5paragraph.com for your business needs, whether you are trying to start a business or expand a business. Check out 5paragraph.com. Check out Combat Flip Flops. I know we all know and love these products that they've got, and use the code cigars and cigars20 to get 20% off at Combat Flip Flops. Go to veteranslist.us. That's run by one of our really good friends. And for a featured membership, go ahead and enter Cigars and C for 50% off the featured membership. Also check out Spartan Media. That's run by Jeremy Knopf. And if you ever want to get a badass website made, that's one of the best companies to go with. Marine Corps veteran, again, Spartan Media. And then, of course, last but not least, Heroes Media. Check them out at Heroes Media Group. And they're doing all kinds of awesome stuff over there, with everything from the Decision Hour with Adam Bird to Straight Outta Combat, right? So check them out. And on that note, cue the music.
Flag up front to every breeze, from dawn to setting.